Hello, improvers. Justin Winstead, the Improver Coach, coming to you. And I want to talk to you today about a very tough topic in leadership. And this is one that I struggle with personally, and I bet a lot of you will be able to relate to it as well. What is this topic? It's accountability. It's having tough conversations with people, maybe about their attitude or their performance, or just something they need to work on in general. And here is the principle that I want to just go straight into, and let's just dive deep into it. I want you to think about the idea of whether or not you are calling up or whether you are calling out. Now, that may sound like the same thing, but let's dive into this and explore it, because these are two different ideas altogether. And the way that you choose to approach an individual on your team or within your organization or in your sphere of influence will determine whether or not they feel called up or they feel called out. Because you see, nobody really likes to be called out. Because when you get called out, you feel judged. You usually have feelings of embarrassment. You feel like people are looking down on you or they're criticizing you in a really negative way. Many times team members who feel called out, they either go to a place of extreme bitterness or they go to a place of extreme shame. And neither of these places are where you want your team members to be. And for a lot of you, that's actually the opposite of what you were intending to do. Now, there are some people out there that you're jerk bosses, and yes, you're trying to punish people. You're trying to make them feel bad. You think in some way it's inspirational to berate them and to tear them down, and by some way causing them to feel inferior, that's going to develop more fight and that they're going to be more likely to perform better. That's come from people in different sports organizations, or maybe your impressions of what it means to be in the military or things like that. But that's not the way leadership works in the real world in almost every scenario that you're going to find yourself in. Calling people out is going to give you the reverse results that you are actually seeking. So what is a better way? The better way is calling someone up. And by calling up, what you are telling them is that I believe you've got greater potential. I hold you to a higher standard because I see more in you. I think there's more excellence that you could bring. You've got potential that's not being met. And the way you're performing here, the way you're speaking, the way your attitude is, that's not all that you could be. And I want to call you up into this position. I want to see you be promoted. I want to see you being elevated. I want you to increase your impact, therefore increase your income. And when you speak to people in that way, that gets not only the results that you desire, but it's going to lead them to the results they desire. It's a win-win situation when people feel called up versus being called out. Now, there's another key distinction between these two concepts, which is, do people feel like you are for them or against them? And when you're calling people out, they think you're coming against them. They think you're challenging them and you're rubbing against the grain on that. And so many times that type of opposing force, just like in fighting and other areas, is met with resistance. They push back on whatever it is you're trying to tell them anyway. But when they feel like you are for them and that you are supporting their ambitions and that you see their goals and their hopes and dreams and desires, when you see them as valid and valuable in their approach, and as someone who just maybe made an error or a mistake or has a blind spot, that you're trying to help them perform better because it's not only in the team's benefit, but it's in their benefit, well, now you've got somebody that you're walking arm in arm and you can actually get more done. There's going to be more energy and more positivity behind that. So I want you to ask yourself, the way I'm coming across, is this coming across as being for them or against them? Well, how do you know? Because sometimes people misinterpret your motives. Sometimes you communicate the best you can, but they just read the wrong thing into what you said or what you did. So one thing you can do is use those words. Use the words, hey, I'm for you, I'm not against you. Tell them and affirm to them like, hey, I know what you're reaching for. I know the promotion that you're angling for. I know the income level you want to get. I know the goals that you have set. I know the vision that you're there, and I'm for you and all that. I want to help you reach your highest good, and I'm willing to fight for that. Well, that comes across in an incredible way when you tell somebody you're for them, and then you reaffirm that you're also not against them. When you say, hey, this may sound like I'm being antagonistic towards you, or I'm coming down on you, but that's not it. I'm not against you at all. I'm trying to help you here. I had a situation many years ago where somebody did that for me, and they said, hey, Justin, I'm going to speak truth in love. That's a Bible verse that says speak truth in love. And when I realized that what they were trying to do was help me, and that their heart was love, and that they were caring for me, I was much more open to the advice. Even then, I resisted at the beginning, but as I calmed down and thought about it, it made a huge impact. So, do others feel like you're for them, or do they feel like you're against them? That determines whether or not you've earned the right and the credibility to, in an influential way versus an authoritative way, to call them up and not call them out. Now, I'll tell you another thing on this idea of earning the right to do this. How do you earn that right? And some of you are like, hey, I make their paycheck. I get that right bestowed upon me by being their supervisor or their employer. Some of you are like, my position gives me the authority, and that's all I need. And that's leading from an authoritative position. It's leading from a bossing kind of way versus a true influential position and a leadership sort of way. So if you want to lead the correct way from an influential position, you're going to have to spend time with those people. You're going to have to really get to know those people that you are leading. And by spending time, you earn trust, you earn credibility that goes a long way. And the last little tip I want to give you on this idea is making sure that you and your team members can see the difference in running a bad play versus being a bad player. Now, what I mean by that is you may have somebody that's underperforming on your team, and that doesn't mean that they are a bad person or they are a bad player. It might just mean that they're running the wrong plays. They're not performing the way they should be. And as their leader, as their coach, as their guide and mentor, you may be trying to help them, but it could be coming across in a way that you're challenging who they are as a person or player versus the types of plays that they're running and how they're performing. So draw the distinction between what they do and who they are in their essence as a person. So what does that really look like? Well, part of what that looks like is saying, hey, you know what? You are one of the best communicators, one of the best salespeople on our team, and we value you a ton. And I just want you to know that I'm for you, and I know you've got some lofty goals. I want to help you meet those. So I'm not against you, I'm for you. But we need to have a conversation about the way you do this thing on the phone with clients, because you're sabotaging your sales, and you're an incredible salesperson. But I know on that particular technique and that thing you do, that's costing you money and it's costing the team. And let's work together on that. You see the difference in that versus just going like, hey, bro, what are you doing? You're totally bombing that call. Like, what are you thinking? Well, that person's going to feel like you're against them. They're going to feel like you're criticizing who they are as a professional. That's not going to get you where you need to go. So look, leader, here is the challenge. I want you to call others up, not call them out. You do this by letting them know you're for them, you're not against them. You do this by focusing on their performance and the plays they're running, not as much who they are as a person, as a player. You're affirming those while criticizing and making improvements on the other. And then the last little tip I want to give you on this, and this one's huge, is you've got to apply this to the way you lead yourself. Leader, if you are calling yourself out, meaning you're demeaning yourself in your internal voice, you're criticizing yourself in a negative, internally abusive way, you're going to do that with others that you lead. However, if you will call yourself up, if you will create self-motivation and self-encouragement where you challenge yourself in a healthy, positive way, that's also the voice that will come out with those you lead. So hey, as you call others up and not out, do the same thing for yourself, leader. Call yourself up, because you've got more potential. You've got more in the tank. You can accomplish more. You can have greater income and impact. And that's what I hope for you here at the Improver Group. If there's anything that I can do to help you along the way, comment below, send me a message, let's get in touch. But until our next video, you stay good, keep getting better.